Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's expert panel, Digital Product Passports, the Key to Growth Beyond Compliance. I'm Karina McGlasson, Senior Global Marketing Specialist, and I'll be kicking off today's webinar. A few housekeeping notes before we get started. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the question box, and we will address them at the end of this discussion as time allows. Lastly, the webinar recording will be sent to you after the event takes place so that you can review the material again, or you can contact any of our experts for further discussion. And today we have a pretty packed agenda designed to give you a clear understanding of the regulatory landscape, upstream and downstream solutions, and how you can take action today. Before we get started, I would like to do a quick introduction to our speakers. But before I do that, I did want to mention that unfortunately, Dr. Suzanne Gutherlowski, CEO at For the Record for Digital Product Passport Consulting, could not be here today due to an urgent obligation. But we are so happy to have our other experts here with us to join in today's conversation. First, we have Mark Bleckink, Managing Director at Movilitas.Cloud. With a background in chemical engineering and a specialization in control technology, Mark has led large-scale automation projects across the US and Europe. As an entrepreneur, he has driven production and business process optimization. He founded Movilitas.Cloud, a software-as-a-service solution for serialization and traceability, and is working in the working groups of Healthcare Distribution Alliance and the Open Credentialing Initiative, two key organizations focused on regulatory compliance and industry standards. Next, we have Giuseppe Beninati, Director of Sales at Spherity. Originally from Italy, he holds a degree in mechanical engineering and pursued his studies across France and Ireland. His career spans the aerospace and automotive industries as well as entrepreneurship, having founded a startup focused on digital traceability, later acquired by Spherity. Today, he leads Spherity's growth in Southern Europe, driven by a passion for building trusted and transparent and future-ready supply chain solutions. And then we also welcome Dr. Holger Berg, Vice Director of Circular Economy at Wuppertal Institute. Dr. Berg's expertise spans circular economy, digital transformation, and entrepreneurship, as well as resource efficiency. He has mentored startups, taught business ethics, and actively supports innovation and sustainable development through his research and leadership. Again, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today, and I welcome you all with a warm welcome. And now I would say we should just jump right in, and so I'll go ahead and turn this over to Dr. Holger Berg to begin his section.
Yeah, thanks, Karina, and thanks for having me. So I would like to give you a short overview on the current status of DPP development as far as it relates to the regulatory landscape and regulation for the DPP. So just to kick things off and to create a common basis, some short introduction, why DPP and what is a DPP? So the idea of a digital product passport has been introduced specifically with the Ecodesign for Sustainable Products Regulation of the European Commission and of the and with the battery regulation. And the idea is to be able to track and trace products and materials to create the chance of better, more sustainable usage, but also end-of-life treatment of such products and materials, so that circular economy is enabled and more sustainable business practices and reporting are enabled too. And furthermore, another goal is to improve the status of digitization and digital transformation in the European economy. But then what is a digital product passport? Given that it's meant for tracking and tracing and traceability and creating circular economy, it is basically a set of structured data related to the product or the material. And it will contain two different sorts of data. Master data, which basically provides you with the information of what is this product, who created it, what is in it, how should it be treated at the end of life, and so forth. But then also lifecycle related data, which will basically tell you what has this material, what has this product experienced during its lifetime. Has it been maintained? Has it been refurbished, remanufactured? Have certain things changed? How often has it been used? Things like that. Moreover, the digital product passport is meant for 3 different target groups: for companies and value chains, so that, for example, circular economy business models can be created and pursued; for the end customer and consumer, to allow for more sustainable purchasing decisions, because you can see all the different sustainability attributes of a product; and then last not least, for authorities, policymakers, to on the one hand learn more about how materials, how products are being used, how they travel through the different supply chains, how regulation can possibly be improved, but also to enable and let's say to simplify processes within the administration, for example, relating to market surveillance or customs, so that such practices are can be done electronically. Next slide, please. So looking at the regulatory landscape, there are a couple of leading regulations and processes that we have to observe right now. Especially important, as mentioned already, is the Ecodesign for Sustainable Products Regulation, so-called ESPR, which was ratified and came into effect last year. The ESPR defines the framework for the digital product passport, what it is for, how it has to be used, but it does not yet tell us what exactly is going to be within each DPP for different product groups, because those will be regulated in so-called delegated acts, which we are still expecting to come in the next couple of years. With the ESPR comes the so-called Ecodesign Forum, and the Ecodesign Forum is a, let's say, a platform for experts and participants to consult on the creation, for example, of the delegated acts, but also on the pursuit of the ESPR. Another regulation that has become of importance is the battery regulation, which concentrates on batteries for electric vehicles, industry batteries, and light mobility batteries as far as digital product passports are concerned. And you can imagine that digital product passports for batteries are especially important because there are so many valuable materials in there, and because we want to use these batteries as long as possible, as circular as possible, also, for example, in second life applications. And the battery regulation is the first one to have DPPs in effect, namely from the 18th February of 2027 onwards. The whole creation of digital product passports is accompanied by standardization, which specifically focuses on the infrastructure, the DPP system that will enable the creation of digital product passports. And that is done in the Joint Technical Committee 24, which is just ongoing. And we will learn about the standards that will underlie and create the digital product passport system at the end of 2025. And the standards will come into effect in spring 2026. Moreover, there are loads of sector-specific regulations coming up with the delegated acts within the ESPR, for example, for textiles, for iron and aluminum, for furniture, and for other product groups. And this has also been manifested very recently in the so-called working plan that was published in the 16th of April this year, which also provides us with a time plan. And so one thing that we can learn, for example, is that furniture will be or will have its own delegated act in 2028, so that we know 18 months later there will be a DPP for furniture, meaning somewhere around 2029. And for example, for textiles, the delegated act will come into effect 2027. So 2028, we will have the DPP there. And then we have regulations like construction products, which have their own plans for DPPs, but still there, we also need further delegated acts to learn what's going to happen there. Next slide, please. So this is a current status, but as you may have guessed already, with all the hints and talks about delegated acts, we're still awaiting a lot of more detailed regulation to come, specifying what different product groups, different value creation chains, like textiles, like aluminum, like iron and steel, like furniture, will exactly have to provide in terms of data, in terms of information, when digital product passports are concerned. What we currently know is there will be the DPP system. Each economic operator bringing a product to the market will have to provide the DPP for the regulated products and materials. And with that, we'll have to provide identifier for the product or material, an identifier for the operator, identifier for the facility where the product has been made, and we'll have to provide the same data in a backup at a different place, to be very short. The identifiers and the data carrier where they are stored will be registered in a registry that is being created and upheld by the European Union. And there will be a web portal also created by the European Union where DPP data for different products can be retrieved and compared. So we're still awaiting the and expecting the creation of real DPP, again, starting in 2027 with the battery passes and further specifications with that. We are still expecting the standards to come. What we will also certainly see, and I encourage you to prepare for that, is also a more international approach to digital product passports, because most value chain don't start or end within the European Union. So we will have to find means and measures to make sure information flows also beyond the European Union. But we can also see that other countries are starting to create their own ideas of digital product passports. And with that, I would like to thank you for your attention. And I would like to hand over to the next speaker. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Holger Berg. It was so nice having you provide your input, and we are very thankful to have you here to cover the regulation. And now with that, I would just like to pass this over to Mark so that we can start discussing the solution approach from here.
Thank you very much, Karina, and welcome everybody. As already was mentioned, the digital product passport, it's a passport that is specifically linked to a product. And for that, actually, the product needs to exist. So when the product exists, the downstream part, you can actually track and trace this product. But what I like to talk about is actually the upstream part. Because before you can actually provide a digital product passport to the product, there is a lot of information that you need to record to fill in all the parameters that will be defined in the different groups. Why is that so important? Well, when you actually buy a product or when a product travels throughout the supply chain, you like to also know, how is this product being made? How sustainable is this product? How recyclable is this product? And because it's not simply one company that makes a product, there is a whole supply chain actually involved to make a product. To take a simple example, when we talk about a t-shirt by itself is being made by a company. And when the t-shirt exists, it's the responsible economic operator that is actually putting this product on the market. So they actually need to create a digital product passport. They need to place a QR code on the product so that downstream it can actually be tracked and traced, and the information can be added by supply chain actors. And we have a Movilitas mobile for that. Yeah. But before you can actually fill the data at the moment the product is actually put on the market, you need to collect the data. And if you take a look at companies that are being involved in a t-shirt, we have a weaving company. We have companies that do the spinning. We have companies that do the transport from one plant to another plant. And what is very important, we talk about this economy where we actually need to have a circular economy. That means we're going to reuse products that are end of life. Is that we also need recycling companies in this place. And the whole idea is actually that for a digital product passport, you actually define a set of data points that you need to fill out. And this data is not only coming from you. So how do you get the data from the other companies? Well, Movilitas.Cloud is a platform, a cloud-based platform that is already used and proven its value in the medical world for tracing medicines. It's used in the food industry. It's used in the agrochemicals industry, where it's actually doing the exact same thing. Yeah, it's tracing its life cycle till it ends up at the patient. The digital product passport is in principle the same. The only complexity is that you need to build up a genealogy about how the product is being made. And that is actually the nice thing about Movilitas.Cloud. It's a multi-tenant environment. That means that the different companies can have their own tenant, meaning they are responsible, but also the owner of their own data. We have a partnership model. That means that companies can actually share data with their business partners. And that is the whole idea, is that a weaving company, for example, is using Movilitas.Cloud to collect data required for the digital product passport, collecting that in its own environment, and sharing this with a responsible economic operator to be able to do that. What is also important, of course, is that the data that is being shared or the data that is being delivered is delivered and is correct data. Otherwise, we have the situation that a company can have a digital product passport. They put some fake data in there, which is called greenwashing. And that is actually where Spherity comes in with the credentials. But more about that in a later phase. If you take a look at the digital product passport, and it's better to work with an example, we can see what type of information do we typically kind of like to have within a digital product. So we like to have information about what is the impact on the environment. And this is even very important for consumers nowadays. They buy a t-shirt, people like to know, yeah, but what is the effect of this t-shirt on the environment? Things like how much water has been used. And that is already not that easy to determine, because how much water has been used for this particular t-shirt. You can determine that as the responsible economic operator, but what about the weaving company? How much water did they use? And how do you assign that to that particular t-shirt? And the same for a spinning company. The recycling company, how much recycled material is involved, how much new material is involved. So you need to put all these pieces together, all the calculations that you can come up with. What is the footprint for this particular t-shirt? Another important piece is that you like to collect data from the companies that are involved. Where are those companies located? What countries are these companies located? What are the sustainability figures from these companies? Do they have CSR reports, and are they willing to share that with the public? So that means you can actually upload PDF documents or other documents that you should actually be able to look at when you buy this product. And what about indicators for how circular is this product? I mean, can this product actually be recycled, yes or no? And it is important that you upfront already provide information for the recycler when the product is end of life, what do they actually need to do to recycle this product? The example here, we say, well, it's important that you separate the cotton from the polyester, because one is a natural product, the other is actually made by humans. So that is an important piece. You provide upfront information about what to do when the product is end of life. Another important piece is the transportation. To get this product here in my hands, how did it travel? Did it travel through air, through trucks? How many kilometers? What was the CO footprint? Because people care about that nowadays. And finally, the labor conditions. When I buy a piece of clothing, are the companies that are involved here, are they using the labor rules that we feel comfortable with in buying this shirt? So what you can see, you can provide a lot of information, and for every product, the information is different. That is how it was mentioned already earlier, that depending on the product, there will be a different set of data. But the most important thing is, how do you actually collect this data from the upstream partners? How do you make sure that the data is correct and coming from a trustful source? And how do you make sure that this data is shared with the economic responsible operator in a way that this information can be extracted? I think that is the whole idea about using Movilitas.Cloud in combination with Vera by Spherity to build a complete solution. I think I'll leave it like that for today, Karina. Back to you.
Now I will just
Sure.
transition this over to Giuseppe for the piece covering the other side of the solution area.
Yes, thank you very much, Karina. I'm really happy to be here and also bring a different angles to DPPs. Why? Because DPPs, from our point of view and based on our experience already working with companies, are not just a ticking box on a compliance checklist, but they really represent an opportunity to drive growth. And Olga and Mark have already been talking about the ESPR and how traceability plays an important role. I like to shift gear a little bit and then also focus on how DPPs are no regret moves for companies that really want to start in this journey and be ahead in this regulation, but also want to thrive in the new landscape. And in order to do so, I quickly touching again on the definition of DPPs, because as we mentioned, DPPs are standardized digital record, or at any rate, they will be standardized once the different standardization initiatives will kick in, that allow to, let's say, from a QR code, allow customer and stakeholder to access this information. They can go from the product identity, its composition, where the products are coming from, but then also how to use this product, how to repair it, how to reuse it, and also how to recycle it. And all of that, we made it possible with Vera. It's a platform that we have developed as Spherity that really enables to create digital pro passport in a safe, easy, and secure way. We support companies, first of all, by onboarding their product, generating these DPPs, keeping them updated, and then also protecting the data, all without disrupting current operations or the systems that they already have in place. And now, Karina, I'll ask you to move to the next slide to really bring me to the real takeaway I want to leave you with today. And this takeaway is the fact that the real value of DPP, it's not just about surviving the regulation, but it's really about unlocking real and tangible business opportunities that I've summed up here into 4 main big wins. So first of all, direct customer interaction. Just think about it. The product is not silent anymore. A customer can scan a QR code and access product details, sustainability credentials, and other options that they can book from the products, really giving an instant and interactive experience. And that's the most powerful way to build customer loyalty. Secondly, we have after-sales services. For example, warranties, spare parts ordering, repairing guides, all of that can be linked to the product and then also to the history of the product. And that's really doesn't involve any additional paperwork or no confusion. It's just a smoother and more satisfying experience for the customers, really opening to a new way of servitization and additional revenue streams for you and for your customers. Then we have circular economy opportunities. In the second-hand market, trust is everything. And with the DPPs, you can verify products' origins, repairs, and condition to really boost the resale value and really expand the lifespan of the product. And it really makes your sustainability story real and not just marketing. And then lastly, we go to transparency and brand trust. Where today customer wants proof and not just claims, and really DPPs lets you show your impact, your material, USG performance, and your ESG efforts in a way that's verifiable and transparent, staying away from the danger of greenwashing. And all of this is not just theory, it's already happening across industry. And Karina, if you move to the next slide. I brought with me some examples that I really encourage you to get out your phone and scan some of these codes to really see how these DPPs can really apply in the industry that you're closer with. And some of these examples are already in production, like, for example, the EV bus. You can see that in electric vehicles, companies are pushing repairability data, and then you're also using dynamic data to monitor battery health. And this is happening live. Buses are running around Berlin, leveraging our DPP technology. Then we have in automotive, DPP are also driving battery lifecycle tracking and CO2 footprint transparency. In textile and fashion, brands are tracking material origin and making circularity part of the story. And then even in tires, manufacturers are using DPPs for remanufacturing and predictive maintenance. So the bottom line in all of this is that if you make a physical product, there's really a way for you to unlock value with DPPs, and that can be happening today and not just tomorrow when you will be forced by the regulation. So thank you very much for your attention, and I'm really looking forward to your questions.
Thank you all so much today for joining in this conversation and the insightful discussion that we've had so far. I'd like to use our remaining time now to then just jump into some of the questions that we've received so far. So let me take a look here. The first question that we have is, how can we as a small business approach DPP implementation without high investment?
Great, I'm happy to take that question. That's a really interesting one. So what I usually like to advise to business is to start small and then scale from there. And as SMEs especially, they can start by focusing on priority products and then also collecting only the essential data that they need for compliance and then grow from there. Our solution is modular and easy to integrate. So that gives really the possibility to gradually expand with the scope and obviously with the requirement of the legislation without having a large upfront investment.
Perfect. Okay, great. Thank you so much. Let me go to the second question we have here. This one says, how do you ensure the security and authenticity of the data inside a digital product passport?
You.
Yes, I'll continue with that. So Mark quickly touched on it, on the importance of using verifiable credential to really build trust among the entire supply chain and the entire value chain of the product. We actually use at Spherity the centralized identity framework and verifiable credentials, which means that each piece of data is cryptographically signed and traceable back and can be traced back to the source. This really ensures that the information is tamper-proof, secure, and trusted, leaving, let's say, the possibility for all partners to achieve transparency while, let's say, taking care about the integrity of data.
Thank you again. Let me go here to our next question. This one says, where can we find the digital product passport standards?
You want me to take that? Yeah, where can you find them? It's not easy to find them because they're not there yet. As was kind of mentioned in the beginning by Holger, is that we have these different working groups that are actually looking at different products and trying to define the standards. There are a lot of standards being developed for how to represent it, how to share, all these kind of things. There are also international initiatives, for example, by the United Nations, the United Nations Transparency Protocol, where also companies outside of Europe are looking at. And we need to look at on a global basis about how to come to kind of putting all these standards and good work together. And I think and I hope that we can find also in this webinar some companies that see the value of digital product passports, not only in the legislation, but really in promoting your company, your products, and how sustainable you are, and then that you're really serious about this. So by doing pilots, by being involved together with us, we do have a say in the direction of the standard. So the earlier people join and the earlier people get involved, the more impact we can have in getting more value out of it for the companies also. I don't know if you want to add anything to that part.
Yes, no, just I wanted to mention that we actually made our job to be present in all these standardization initiatives to try to learn as fast as possible and as soon as possible everything that you will need to be compliant. And that's definitely one of the benefits to working with us, that we can basically take compliance out of your shoulders and deliver you a solution that already ticks all the boxes.
Okay, let me go here. I think we'll just do one more question for now. This last one for now is, how does Movilitas.Cloud collect upstream data?
Yeah, that's a good question. There are different ways in doing that. I mean, you have very small organizations that are part of the supply chain. What we typically see, and we see the same in other industries, is that they completely use our tools, our mobile tools, to collect the data. So it is mainly a manual process in collecting the data. If you go to the larger companies or the more automated companies, then we actually start integrating with either the shop floor itself. And it can still be by providing people with scanners to track lots and batches and these kind of things. Or we can actually integrate with the machines or with existing MES systems, existing ERP systems. So it really depends a little bit on the level of automation that the companies have, and how much detailed data they have. If you look at collecting data like water usage and then relating it to your product, that's not always that easy. Yeah, so a lot of times it also involves a little bit of a study about, building kind of a mass balance around your process to determine what goes in, what goes out, and what is related to what. But it's an interesting process, and the nice thing is also that it always gives value to companies, because as soon as you have the data, you have a good basis to start optimizing your process. So that is a side effect of being ready with these type of things. So I hope that is an answer to the question.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I think for now we'll just take those, but if anyone else has any remaining questions that get entered into the question box, we'll be sure to have our experts follow up after this webinar so that you can get some more insight and understanding of what your question is. So From here, I'll just pass this off to Giuseppe again to explain how to get started and stay ahead of these urgent regulatory requirements.
Yes, so we also wanted to be pragmatic today and leave you with some real action you can take after this webinar. And time is ticking, as you can see, and waiting until the last minute could really turn something that could have been a competitive advantage for you into a last minute implementation and just an additional compliance cost. And while if you start early, we can make DPPs work for you, and while still being ready afterwards for the regulation. And for this reason, we partner up with Movilitas.Cloud to really offer you a one-stop solutions and make this journey for you easy, secure, and most importantly, powerful. So if you're curious to learn more, or if you're interested in joining us, feel free to scan this code. You will find this two-pager in which you will find some information about a really interesting proposal that we're putting out there about a piloting program together with us. And yes, we're looking forward to you coming back and hopefully starting building something great together. So thank you very much for joining today, and looking forward to hearing back from you.
Yeah, thank you all so much. As a reminder to our attendees, you can download the previously mentioned two-pager also from the handout section of this webinar if you didn't capture that QR code yet. We also invite you to take part in our survey that will be sent out after this webinar to help us gain insight on your DPP readiness. We know your time is valuable, so I just want to thank all of our attendees for joining us today, as well as our expert speakers for this insightful discussion. We hoped all of you learned a lot of valuable information, and we would really love to have some deeper conversations with you about digital product passports and upcoming regulations. So please feel free to reach out at any time if there are any further questions, and we'll also be sure to do the same. Thank you again, and I just wish you all a great rest of your day, and take care, everyone. Thank you again.
Sure.
Thank you.